In our very first assignment, we saw how traditional methods for teaching students science are failing miserably. And we saw that sometimes we think that when we're pouring information into our students' mind, and even the smartest, the best, and the brightest folks who we assume got all the information that was passed on to them along the way, assume they got it and can connect it. And we saw that sometimes as older folks, when we think about the traditional ways that we learn science, when we students, that may not be the best approach. That students get bored easily, they have very short attention spans, especially at this generation. And so the new trend toward teaching students science is the inquiry method, understanding inquiry, and using inquiry in the classroom to get students to interact more with the content and to help them to understand it and internalize it. The next unit, the rest of the course is going to be separated into 2 additional units. The next unit, the one that we're covering for the next, um, the inquiry approach to teaching science and how we can use inquiry to increase student retention and help to create or critical thinking. And the last course is going to consist of just basic science knowledge you can use in your classrooms to pass on to your students. I do apologize for it taking so long for this information to get put together. I had another series of videos that I had planned to have delivered to you, and I realized that there's a lot of difficulty accessing those videos, and in addition, I had no control over the content. So I really wanted to have a more hands-on approach to creating the videos, and so I finally mastered the technology to deliver the videos to you so that you don't have it in front of a computer. You can actually access this by subscribing to the YouTube channel and just watching it on your phone or whatever mode that you need to watch it in. So the first part of the inquiry module is going to introduce the concept of inquiry. So we don't want to pour we want to be able to build on their natural tendency toward asking questions and their natural curiosity in order to get them to act with the science content. Excuse me. We want to use this as an opportunity for students a better appreciation for the value of science and how science on a daily basis. We don't necessarily want to teach them how to think critically. To take more responsibility for his or her learning. It allows the teacher to step back and trust the student a little bit more and give them a little bit more control of their learning to develop a more positive attitude towards science and how the world is studied from a scientific perspective. We're accustomed in the traditional classroom setting to the student sitting there and listening to the teacher writing, taking note, or the inquiry capitalizes on the student's natural tendency to ask questions. It capitalizes on the student's natural curiosity. And it is the teacher then to guide the student in a series of activities designed around exploration. So the teacher's role is to be to assist the children in designing and carrying the activities that they provide for them. Allow the students to interact with each other, to feel, to touch, to explore, and then to be able to assimilate their knowledge and communicate it back to the instructor. And guide the students with questions as they discover solutions. Guide our students through the inquiry. And specifically to provide students with the tools that with guidelines, working with each other, working with others, be very, very important for the students to learn at an early age. And in science, we always need to keep the students cognizant of any type of safety considerations, help to instill safety considerations at a very, very young age, and to just let them explore. This approach, the children are going to be just observing what's happening. They're going to be observing the phenomena, learning questions, and gain strategies for thinking critically. They're going to learn to gather the information. They're going to collect it, analyze the data, interpret the data, and arrive at a conclusion. So when the to learn a specific concept, the students in that process will observe phenomena. They will ask questions. They will generate hypotheses, and then they'll gather relevant information to see what has been discovered. Then they will use the tools that they already collect and organize, analyze, and interpret the data. Then they can propose answers to their initial hypothesis, and then finally they can communicate the results. So I've been talking a lot about that do it without a purpose. We have a specific end in mind. We don't just let them explore randomly. So we must plan for our inquiry toward us. So the first thing that has to be done is to decide the desired learning outcomes, of course, to correlate with the national science education standards and state standards. So once we decide on the desired learning outcome, we need to arrange so that the kids develop their own questions and design activities on their own with the objects that are provided. And then third, we want to follow up and interact with the students, further engage the student individually and in the class as a whole as is necessary. So why is it so important? Well, we understand from looking around in our society the importance of being an informed citizen. As they grow up, will need to be able to make very, very important decisions in their life, in their life, to understand their body, to understand important as we see how the United States is falling behind other countries in taking our education, especially our education in the science seriously. We don't want to understand how it's relevant in their everyday life, not just in the laboratory, but also um, in society as a whole. So, in order to introduce inquiry into the classroom, um, we this model consists of engagement, explanation, elaboration, evaluation, and e-learning. In engagement, one of our main purposes is to recall what they've already learned and build on that. We want to give the students short activities that allow them to access this prior knowledge. And then we want the students to make connections between the past and present learning experiences. For the prior concept, we want them to be exposed, but we also um, toward understanding and arriving at the current um, particular for the particular activity at hand. In exploration, now that we have engaged the student, have actions. The activities that the students work on, in addition to helping them to make connections with the current concept, it provides teacher an opportunity to identify places where students may have misconceptions in their prior knowledge. The student starts to make connections with the concepts that are part of the overall learning objective. Or they may be able to do other types of activities that allow them to investigate answers to the question. After the student has been allowed to explore for a little while, now comes the process. The part in the process comes in and brings the child's focus to a certain topic. And during this time now, and the student is then encouraged to provide a demonstration of their conceptual understanding of the concept, the process, or the scheme. So, up to this point, we have allowed the child to, um, then we focused his or her attention toward the new concept that we're trying to teach or the new skill that we're trying to teach. And now we have been able to interact with the student and help to elaboration. So now we want to challenge and extend the student's conceptual understanding by adding new experiences. We want to take it to now call on that new knowledge that has been presented to the student. This allows the student to develop together even more information and to further develop his or her skill set. After elaboration, now comes evaluation. We've let the student interact, we've let the student build on the fundamental knowledge to take it a step further, and how much the student actually understands. So We want to start the student to actually being able to assess his own understanding and at the same um, of the teaching and the delivery of the learning outcome, or should I say the mastery of the learning outcome. So we're going to both to learn to understand, to assess his or her learning and his or her abilities. And then in the same process, we want to evaluate the student toward achieving the desired um, concept, outcome, or educational objective. In today's society, we know that kids are always in a computer or in an iPad or in their phone. This is a very technology rich generation, and computer enhanced learning and help the students be able to interact and apply their scientific knowledge over a technological of deployments. We can have blogs, wikis, software, discussion boards, podcasts, all kinds of different ways that you can use technology to connect with your students. Skills of learners. It both enhances their technology skills and helps them to gather information, engage in exploration, and explain and communicate. E-process, but overall, what we really want to do is to help our students to be able to learn to think like scientists. And we need them to understand are what we call theories. Theories are well substantiated explanations, and that they occur, we arrive at data collection and careful analysis of data. So basically, we want our students to be able to understand how that process works, how to analyze it and arrive at a conclusion. We all are familiar with the scientific method, and basically, of science, they all started out with a testable hypothesis. And we remember the scientific method where we can then go and collect data, analyze, interpret, and then question our data. And that is the scientific method, and this method is used in our political discourse. Um, there's a lot of instances where scientific fact is ignored and opinions are interjected. And be able to separate fact from personal opinion. And we want to start our kids out really, really young, understanding um, opinion versus what a hard piece arises. It arises from first asking a question, collecting the data, interpreting the data, and to arrive at a conclusion. So basically, our objective in introducing science to the students at this early age is not to teach them pure science, not to come in and bombard them with all of the scientific facts that we can stuff in their minds, but our goal is for them to learn not only what scientific facts are out there that scientists have already learned, but we want to start trying to encourage scientific thinking, um, between information that they're um, as they go through middle school and high school. We need to prepare our students younger to start thinking about science. So the next part we're going to start is discovered through inquiry. We're going to look at a couple of different theories that led to um, the inquiry model. And that's going to be in the next video.